Hey everyone, my name is Johnson and I'm 18 years old. 5 years ago, I was standing inside my grandfather's old garage, holding a wooden chair that I had spent 3 days building. I smiled proudly. I thought my family would be happy. Instead, my cousins started laughing. One of them said, "You really think you'll become rich making chairs?" Another one laughed even louder. People buy furniture from big stores, not from a kid working in a dirty garage. Everyone laughed, even some of my own relatives. I looked at my grandfather. He didn't laugh. He simply placed his hand on my shoulder and quietly said, "Never stop building, Johnson." That night, I made myself one promise. One day, the same people who laughed at my furniture would stand in line to buy it. 13 years later, my company had luxury furniture showrooms across America. Celebrities, hotels, and millionaires were buying my designs. And the old garage, where everyone laughed, had become the birthplace of an empire. This is our story. Before we begin, if you enjoy emotional family success stories, please like this video, share it with your family and friends, subscribe to the channel, and comment where you're watching from. Your support inspires us to create more powerful stories every day. Now, let's begin. I grew up in Asheville, North Carolina. My grandfather owned a tiny wooden garage behind our house. Most people saw it as junk. Old tools, broken tables, pieces of wood, dust everywhere. But to me, it looked like a workshop full of dreams. Every afternoon after school, I ran straight to that garage. Grandpa smiled every time he saw me. He always said, "Wood speaks to people who have patience." I didn't fully understand his words, but I loved creating things with my own hands. The next weekend, our relatives came to visit. Grandpa proudly showed them the small table I had built. Before I could say anything, my cousin burst into laughter. "You spent 3 days making this?" Another one smirked. "Johnson thinks he's going to become America's next furniture king." Everyone laughed. I forced a smile, but inside, my heart broke. Only Grandpa stood beside me. He quietly said, "One day, they'll understand." A few weeks later, a neighbor knocked on our door. He needed a small bookshelf. Grandpa pointed toward me. I spent 5 days building it. When the man handed me $120, it was the first money I had ever earned. I didn't buy anything. I bought better tools. Every day after school, I worked until midnight. My hands became rough. My clothes were covered in sawdust. People called me crazy, but every piece of furniture made me better. One evening, Grandpa looked at me and said, "Never build furniture just to sell it. Build something people will remember." Those words changed my life forever. Months later, Grandpa became seriously ill. He couldn't work anymore. The garage became quiet. Before sleeping one night, he handed me his old toolbox. He whispered, "Promise me you'll never stop building." I promised. A few weeks later, Grandpa passed away. The entire family came to the funeral. Most people cried, but after a few days, life moved on for everyone, except me. Every time I entered that garage, I remembered his words. Money became a huge problem. Dad wanted me to quit woodworking. He said, "Find a real job." I respected him, but I couldn't abandon Grandpa's dream. So I worked 2 jobs and built furniture every night. One customer posted a picture of my handmade dining table online. Within days, messages started arriving. People wanted custom furniture. For the first time, hope returned. A famous interior designer shared my work. Millions of people saw my designs. Orders flooded in. The little garage couldn't keep up anymore. I rented a small workshop. It wasn't luxurious, but it was mine. I hung Grandpa's old toolbox on the wall. Every morning, I looked at it before starting work. Soon, I couldn't do everything alone. I hired 2 young carpenters, then 5, then 20. Our family dream was becoming a business. One afternoon, the same cousin who once laughed walked into my workshop. He looked around, then quietly said, "Can you make furniture for my restaurant?" I smiled. I didn't remind him of the past. Success had already done that. A luxury hotel chain contacted us. They wanted us to furnish every room. It was the biggest opportunity of my life. We worked day and night. When we finished, everything changed. Our company officially became Walker Luxury Furniture. Customers came from every corner of America. People trusted our craftsmanship. Grandpa's dream had become a national brand. The first thing I bought wasn't a sports car. It wasn't a mansion. It was a beautiful home for my parents. Dad hugged me tightly. He whispered, "I should have believed in you sooner." I never sold Grandpa's garage. Instead, I restored it exactly as it had always been. Every new employee visited that garage first, because that's where the dream started. On Grandpa's birthday, we opened the Grandpa's Woodworking Academy. Young people learned woodworking there, completely free. It was my way of saying, "Thank you." Years later, our entire family gathered again. The same relatives who once laughed were proudly telling everyone, "Johnson is part of our family." I smiled, not because I had won, but because Grandpa's dream had finally been respected. Today, whenever I hold a piece of wood, I still hear Grandpa's voice. Build something people will remember. That tiny garage, once filled with dust, became the birthplace of one of America's most respected furniture brands. If there's one lesson my journey taught me, it's this: never let other people's laughter become the end of your dream, because one day, the dream they mocked may become the success they admire.